Welcome back to my channel, Get Psyched. Today, we are gonna be going over the Mental Health Act forms. My name is Melina and I am a registered psychiatric nurse based here in Canada. I have been working on inpatient psychiatric units since the beginning of my career, and so being able to explain certain Mental Health Act forms has been crucial in my career as a nurse. I'm gonna preface this by saying that these forms are only valid in Manitoba, Canada. All the other provinces and states have their own health laws and acts, but again, these forms only valid in Manitoba, Canada. So let's get started. This is gonna be a multiple choice, choose your own adventure type of video, kind of, ish. You'll see different scenarios between a patient and a nurse. The nurse will respond 3 different ways. It's up to you to figure out which response is the most appropriate. After each scene, we'll go over the right answer, and then we'll also go over why the other 2 were just not it. Got it? Let's get psyched. So, what is the Mental Health Act? In short, it's a set of laws set in Manitoba for patients in psychiatric facilities. There's 2 aspects to it. 1, the rights of citizens under the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedom. 2, society's obligation to care for those living with mental disorder who may not appreciate getting treatment. All right. Let's get to the fun part. This scene is between a voluntary patient and a nurse.
Hey, nurse. I already talked to my doctor today and they said that I'm probably going to be discharged on Monday. I know it's Friday and they're not here on the weekend, but I just really want to go home now. Can I just go home now?
What are you going to tell them?
Okay, so you and your doctor already talked about discharge for Monday.
And yes, they're gone because it's Friday. You know what? What's a couple days? You're probably gonna be discharged on Monday anyway, so go pack up your stuff. I'll meet you at the front and then I'll just let you go. Since you guys talked about discharge on Monday, why don't we just wait a couple days and then you'll probably just be discharged on Monday.
So you and your doctor talked about discharge for Monday?
Well, I can't let you off the unit this very moment, but what I can do, I can give you a Form 13, which is a request for discharge by a voluntary patient, and that's what your status is right now. And so fill it out, bring it back, don't forget to time it, and then I'll call the on-call psychiatrist and let them know that you filled it out, and they got to see you within 24 hours of you filling it out. If you chose C, you're right, and I'll tell you why. The Form 13 is a request for discharge by a voluntary patient. This form is dated, it's timed, and it's signed. Most importantly, the timed part, because by law, the patient does need to be assessed for discharge within 24 hours of completing the form. However, this can go one of 3 ways. The patient could be discharged, and that concludes their hospital stay. The on-call psychiatry team is actually able to encourage them to stay and then rescind that Form 13 and then wait to talk to the regular treatment team on that Monday when they're back to facilitate a safe discharge. The psychiatry team actually deems that due to their mental disorder, they are at risk to harm themselves, harm others, or significantly deteriorate mentally and physically if they do not continue to stay in hospital for treatment. If it went the 3rd way, a notification of status will be completed, the patient will sign it acknowledging that this is what's happening, and then they'll be placed on a Form 6. I'll be going over the Form 6 and a bit more details in the later scenes. Here's why the other responses were incorrect. Just because a patient is a voluntary patient, which means that they usually want to be there, this does not mean that if they no longer want to be there, that we could just open the door, see you later, best of luck to you. No. There's a process that we all must follow. As a nurse, you gotta let them know what their rights are. You can't just be deflecting all these questions. You gotta inform them. And moving forward, this scene is between an involuntary patient and a nurse.
Hi, so I know that it's 4 in the morning. Well, I've actually slept now, and so I know my sister brought me here yesterday because she's really concerned about sleep. So you can just go ahead and tell her that I slept. I slept, but I'm ready to go home now. I have some cats at home and oh my gosh, they're so cute. I really, really miss them. I'm ready to go home now. So what's happening?
What are you gonna tell them? Okay, well, you're on a form 4, so you just gotta be here for 72 hours.
No biggie.
Sorry, doctor's orders. Okay, so I hear what you're saying, but at this point in time, you are on what's called a form 4, which means that you do gotta be here for a minimum of 72 hours. We gotta make sure you're eating right, you're sleeping right. And the right answer is C. Great job. I'll tell you why. The Form 4 is an application by physician for an involuntary psychiatric assessment. This form is usually completed in the Emerge, in the Response Center, up north in the nursing station, and that's where you're from, or an outpatient department. Those who qualify for an involuntary psychiatric assessment are those who are suffering from a mental disorder and due to this mental disorder are at risk to harm themselves, harm others, or are at risk of deteriorating mentally and physically if they do not receive treatment within a facility, essentially, and they are not willing to consent to a voluntary assessment. Here's why the other responses were incorrect. You can't just say, "I'm sorry," and shrug. You do have to provide the patient with an explanation as to what's going on. So the Form 4 is valid for a maximum of 72 hours, which usually means that the patient is on the unit for a minimum of 72 hours. Next.
I just talked to my doctor and they said that I have to stay here longer. I'm not even that bad. You know what? I have free will here. You can't keep me here. My cats. Who's gonna take care of my cats? What does this mean? Can I have a cookie?
Ooh, that's tough. What's the right answer? Oh, well, darn. The doctor should have really talked to you about that. But they're back tomorrow, and so you can definitely ask them about that then. And of course, they'll grab you a cookie. Okay, so that means that you just gotta stay here a little longer. And I can't give you a cookie right now because you gotta wait for snack time. Oh man, sounds like there's a lot going on for you right now, but we can absolutely help you with all of that. And so what the Form 6 means is that you are here as an involuntary patient, and so you do have to get treatment while you're here. But in the meantime, I can absolutely grab you another cookie. The correct response was C, and I'll tell you why. You want to be honest with the fact that they are on a Form 6. The Form 6 is an involuntary admission certificate, which is valid for 21 days or 3 weeks, whichever one comes first. Just kidding. It's the same thing. The psychiatry team actually deems that due to their mental disorder are at risk to harm themselves, harm others, or are at risk of deteriorating mentally and physically if they do not receive treatment within a facility, essentially, and they are not willing to consent to a voluntary assessment. The reason why the other responses were incorrect is because, it is up to the doctor to let them know why they're going to be placed on a Form 6, but it's also important that as a nurse, you're also able to explain that to them as well. And telling them that they gotta just stay in hospital longer, I'm sorry, but they are not going to be satisfied with that answer. On to the next scene. No, I'm not taking any of the dirty, poisonous meds. You guys are up to something. I know it. I just know it. It's not my fault my doctor doesn't believe me that I could run off of 2 hours of sleep just because they can't. Pfft, amateur. No, I don't want my Vitalize taken. Get. Well, you know what? You can't make me take meds. Free will. Yikes. So this patient doesn't want to take their med. They don't recognize that they're struggling with their mental health at that point, and they've made 0 recovery since being admitted to hospital. What's the treatments team's next step? Oh, so we're gonna wait until this blows over and then wait until the patient's ready to take their meds? Oh, okay. You want me to just crush their meds and just sprinkle it on top of their food and water and not tell them? Okay, gotcha. Oh, we're waiting to hear back from their substitute decision maker? Perfect. If you chose C, you're right. I'll tell you why. If the patient does not possess the insight to recognize that they do need treatment and they're refusing all care, the treatment team will complete a Form 9. The Form 9 is a certificate of incompetence to make treatment decision. That's where an SDM will be assigned, which is a substitute decision maker. An SDM is usually a spouse, a parent, partner, closest relative, or a PGT. A PGT is a public guardian trustee, which is a special operating agency provided by the Government of Canada for those who unfortunately don't have someone willing or capable to make these sort of treatment decisions for them. Once assigned an SDM, the treatment team will provide them with all the relevant information related to their care, and then they'll ask their consent to move forward with same. Here's why the other responses were incorrect. Delaying the patient's care just to wait for them to figure out that, okay, today's the day that I want to take their meds. Not the move. And sprinkling their meds on top of their food and water without their knowledge. Ooh, talk about unethical. Next.
Yeah, I'm taking the meds, but that's because if I don't, you guys threaten to give me a needle. You know what? I really hate that my sister's making me do this. You know what? I cut her off for a reason. Yeah, she was tapping to my phone. She was selling my information to the government. You can't see that? Don't you know that? It says that in my chart. Go look. Well, I'm a grown adult and I don't think anyone should be making my decisions. If I don't want to take meds, I shouldn't have to take meds. If I don't want to be in hospital, I shouldn't have to be in hospital. You know what? This doctor doesn't know what they're doing. Fired. Get me another doctor.
All right, so this patient is now on the Form 6, which is that involuntary admission certificate. They're also on a Form 9, which means that they have an SDM making all of their treatment decisions for them. What is the next step for this patient, and what are you as a nurse going to do? Okay, well, all you have to do is just take your meds, and then you'll be out of here in no time. Promise. I hear you, but you can't get another doctor. This is your doctor up until discharge, so sorry. You seem really frustrated right now. But what I can do for you right now is give you a Form 18, which is an application to the Mental Health Review Board. Fill it out, read it over, then bring it back to me, and then I'll fax it over for you. If you chose C, you're right, and I'll tell you why. You, as the nurse, are going to provide them with the Form 18. The Form 18 is a patient's application to the Mental Health Review Board. The Form 18 actually has different acts on there, so it is up to the patient to check off whichever one is relevant to them at that point in time. And then as a nurse, what you'll do is you'll fax this over to the Mental Health Review Board. You'll receive 2 confirmation letters, one that goes to the patient and the other one that stays in the chart. And then a few days after that, you will receive a confirmation of the hearing date. And so all of this actually has to happen within 21 days of the receival of the application form. If a patient successfully wins their Mental Health Review Board hearing, this is likely the end of their admission. However, if they do lose their Mental Health Review Board hearing, this means that they will continue to stay as an involuntary patient. Here's why the other responses were incorrect. The patient does need to take their meds, but let's not make any sort of promises while you're on the unit. That's one of the number 1 rules. The patient can fire their doctor all they want. The amount of times that I've heard a patient fire their doctor, fire their nurses is a lot. But again, within their rights to complete a Form 18, and it's up to you, the nurse, to provide them with that and inform them of same. Okay, so just to quickly recap. If a voluntary patient is requesting discharge, you provide them with the Form 13, which is that request for discharge by a voluntary patient. If a patient's on the Form 4, this means that this is a 72-hour observation period, okay? And so this form can either lapse and they become voluntary, or due to the mental disorder, they'll be placed on the Form 6. The Form 6 is an involuntary admission certificate, which is valid for 21 days or 3 weeks. The Form 9 is a certificate of incompetence to make treatment decision, and this is where they'll be signed an SDM, substitute decision maker. A Form 18 is a patient's application to the Mental Health Review Board, which essentially is the involuntary patient's last resort in reversing any sort of treatment decisions that the psychiatry team has decided at that point in time. You guys will absolutely come across a whole bunch of other mental health act forms while working on an inpatient psychiatric unit. However, I decided to focus on the ones that I regularly and frequently have to describe and explain to patients. Again, these forms are only valid in Manitoba, Canada, because that's where I'm based out of. Honestly, leave me a comment on what you guys thought of this scene-based type of video, because I decided to switch things up last minute because the other one was kind of boring, and I found this one to be a bit more interactive. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I hope you guys got a little psyched. I know I am. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any other content, because we're having fun here. I know I'm having a lot of fun doing this. Talk to you guys later.